Hello, and welcome to a chapter a day. Happy Sabbath! It's Saturday, May 11th, and we will be reading Numbers chapter 11. So, I hope you all had a great week, and if you did not, well, you know what? The weekend might be better. There's always hope. You can always hope for something better. So, hopefully your weekend is going to be great. Those of you who are mothers, and I believe all women are, tomorrow is going to be a special day for you, however you wish to celebrate it. Usually I choose to do little to nothing. So happy Mother's Day in advance, and I will be repeating my hello and happy greetings to you again tomorrow. But for today, we will get into our reading. Again, these are God's instructions to Moses for the children of Israel. In particular, this time, he's talking to the Levites and Aaron's sons, who are the officiators of the tabernacle. Let's see what more God has to say to them. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it. And his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burned among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. So here we have a kind of a switch from the course of focusing on the Levites and the tabernacle, and we are back to the people, the mixed multitude, and they're complaining. They want flesh. They want fish. They're remembering all the goodies that they used to eat in Egypt, and now they're complaining to Moses again. Verse 6. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. And the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, and ground it in mills, or beat it in a mortar, and baked it in pans, and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. When then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. So we have some complaining about the food. The manna is not acceptable anymore because it's become maybe monotonous. We are having too much of this manna. We want fish. Okay? So, of course, God is not pleased. God is providing, and I think we are like that sometimes. We have one thing, maybe look across, see the neighbor has that. Why don't I have that? Or look up the street or go to church and see somebody has something we don't have, and we start complaining to God instead of just asking God. I think I need is, and the word is need. I could use, maybe it would really be great if I could have, but not with a covetousness in your heart or an envying, but for a real need. But anyway, their complaint was that they were tired of manna, most likely, and they wanted flesh. Verse 11. And Moses said unto the Lord, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant, and wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, Carry them in my bosom as a nursing father beareth the sucking child unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? When should I have flesh to give unto all this people? For they weep unto me, saying, Give us flesh that we may eat. I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. So Moses himself starts to complain. I mean, come on. You were given the burden or responsibility of shepherding over 500,000 people of all different nationalities, has nothing to do with it, of all different temperaments and cultural upbringings. Not everyone in that group was an Israelite born. And even if there were, it doesn't make a difference. Our temperaments are different. And these people are now complaining, not that they weren't complaining before, but there's another complaint here, that they want flesh. God gave them this wonderful thing coming from the sky called manna, or that they called manna. And somehow it has become not very satisfactory anymore because they are craving the flesh that they got in Egypt. So Moses is complaining to God, Lord, why'd you do this? Why'd you put this burden on me? Maybe I should die. Maybe you should just have killed me instead. Let's see what God says. Verse 16, and the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. And say thou unto the people, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, and you shall eat flesh. For you have wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you flesh, and you shall eat. You shall not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, neither 10 days, nor 20 days, but even a whole month, until it come out at your nostrils, and it be loathsome unto you, because that you have despised the Lord which is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why came we forth out of Egypt? Be careful what you ask for, and not just what, how. Whew. So God said, okay, Moses, first of all, let me take care of your problem. I'm going to allow you to have 70 elders to back you up. They will have my spirit in them, and they will lessen the burden of the load for you. Very good. Just like his father-in-law gave him those instructions earlier on to dish up among the people elders who should help. God is going to do the same. And as far as the flesh for the people, he said, you know what? You will get flesh. Not just for today or for tomorrow or maybe for the week. You will have lots of flesh until it comes out of your nose. Ooh, yikes. Let's see how that goes. Verse 21. And Moses said, the people among whom I am are 600,000 footmen, and thou hast said, I will give them flesh that they may eat a whole month. Moses, for real? Are you doubting God too? Shall the flocks and the herds be slain for them to suffice them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to suffice them? And the Lord said unto Moses, is the Lord's hand waxed short? Oh, Moses, what's wrong with you? Thou shalt see now whether my word shall come to pass unto thee or not. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people, and set them round about the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in a cloud, and spake unto him, and took of the Spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass, that when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. When the Spirit of God is upon you, it will come out in your words, in your demeanor, even in just your existence. People will sense it. People will sense it. And that's good and bad, okay? When I say it's not that it's good or bad that you have the Spirit, it's good or bad people who will sense it, because sometimes people will just give you an arm's length, and that may be part of your congregation that you belong to, or people out in the world, or maybe even in your family, because evil and good cannot dwell in the same home. It will cause friction. So sometimes when people say, I don't like her, I don't like him, don't first of all get yourself in that foolishness, and second of all, don't even pay any mind. Just know it's the Spirit's warring inside of you and the one inside of that person. Okay? Verse 26. But there remained 2 of the men in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them, and they were of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. And there ran a young man and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad do prophesy in the camp. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his young men, answered and said, My lord Moses, forbid them. And Moses said unto him, Enviest thou for my sake? Would God that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his Spirit upon them. And Moses gat him into the camp, he and the elders of Israel. So what's happening here? Now that God has taken that spirit that Moses had all of and shared it up amongst the 70 elders which were chosen, there were 2 that did not come to the tabernacle as Moses had called, and this young man heard them prophesying and ran and told Moses. Joshua, very warlike, thought that he would kind of, have Moses' back for these 2 non-compliant men who did not come but still got the Spirit. And Moses said, no, it is God's doing, and it would be great if everyone in the camp could prophesy. Verse 31, And there went forth a wind from the Lord, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. That's a lot of quails. And if you want to know what quails are, they're like little doves. And the people stood up all that day and all that night and all the next day, and they gathered the quails. He that gathered least gathered 10 omers, and they spread them all abroad for themselves round about the camp. And while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord smote the people with a very great plague. And he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people that lusted. And the people journeyed from Kibroth Hattaavah unto Hazeroth, and abode at Hazeroth. That's the end of chapter 11. So we see what's happening here. The people were craving flesh. They wanted fish like they ate in Egypt. So God sent them fish. Well, quails coming up from the sea. I guess they came over the sea. And it was so many that it piled up high, and the people went at it. And God struck them with a plague. Yep, whatever the plague may have been, maybe it would come out something from the flesh that they were eating, and many of them died and were buried right there, dropped dead right where they were eating the flesh of those quails. I would say this: sometimes we ask God for things out of greed, covetousness, which is like greed, envy, which is still like greed. And sometimes, you know what? God lets us have it. And then when we get it, it does us no good. We are worse off when we have it than when we didn't. Because in our hearts, we knew we didn't need it. And the reason we asked for it is because it was something inside of us, a spiritual defect in us that caused us to ask for such a thing. God grants us our needs, and he does also indulge us at times with our wants. But if we're being covetous and greedy, like these people were being, all they were thinking about was maybe their minds were set back in Egypt. Sometimes we got to be so careful. Even when we say we have accepted Christ and become Christians, something in us remains. For me, it was the music, and I had to really pray. And even today, I'm over it 99%, but there's always that little 1% where I can slip back, and that's all the devil will need. But I have to be very careful. I always like the music and the dancing, and I had to pray and ask God to take that away from me, and don't let me be affected by it, because I struggled with it after I, started coming into the faith and having a relationship with God. But it got less and less and less even to this day. So, with that said, I thank you once again for listening, for following along with us. I pray that you continue to be blessed by something you hear or be inspired by something you thought of. Whatever it may be, I pray you have a blessed weekend and God continue to guide and direct your life. Remember that faith comes by hearing God's word. Until our next reading, bye. Take care.